Hello, everyone. My name is Catherine Linford, and I'm going to talk today about corruption in Pakistan. And I'm going to try to do it in as close to the 5 minutes as possible. This was quite a very large topic, and there's a lot of information out there. But just wanted to start with some basic overview of Pakistan and corruption. So, first off, what is corruption? Well, the Transparency International says that corruption is the abuse of entrusted power for private gains. You see this great picture here that shows this Pakistan trying to get progress, but it's being dragged down by corruption. And this really is what Pakistan is looking at. And when we think of corruption, the first thing we think of is government.
Pakistan has seen 10 general elections till date. Corruption has been a major issue in each one of them. Many leaders have lost positions of power due to corruption-related issues. A recent example is that of former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. The former PMLN chief had to step down as Prime Minister after his name surfaced in the Panama Papers scandal.
So, the legacy of Sharif. So here he is, Nawaz Sharif. This picture from Wikipedia should just about state it all. He was the Prime Minister the 12th, the 14th, and 20th time of the Prime Ministers of Pakistan. There's a picture of him in office. In between each of those stints, he had corruption, scandals, prison. Twice he had to step down. Then he was elected for a third time. Again, he had to step down in 2017. I'm wondering, who knows, maybe a fourth time as a prime minister may be coming after he gets out of jail in 10 years. But Sharif is not the only one. When we're looking at the government, we know that there were at least 10 different elections. All of them were flagged with fraud and different things like that. We started with the original Prime Minister Bhutto, who was outed by a coup from a general that he promoted, a general that he thought was a pretty safe guy. That's why he promoted him. Eventually, Prime Minister Bhutto was hung. General Mahab Zia ul Holgoy, I did get that one right, ruled in military law. He took over from the prime minister and declared military law, and he ruled the country until he died under mysterious circumstances in an airplane crash, which was never fully investigated. These obviously are not in any order. Another election was for Zia Bhutto, which was the daughter of Prime Minister Bhutto. She was elected in what General Beg stated was one of the fairest elections in Pakistan's history. Not one man was killed. And that was actually from our student resource this week. So that tells us not one man was killed, how fair of an election most of the other elections were. She served twice and then was assassinated. So it's very obvious that the government is just rife with corruption, and the military seems to really rule, and the leaders kind of are puppets a lot and coming and going. But is it just the military and the government that has issues? I found this SlideShare written by Walid Shabir. That's all he said his name was. But he claims that corruption goes far beyond the government and military. He lists the most corrupt departments here, starting with the police at the corruption rate of 27.68%. Then you got the power department, the taxation department, judiciary, customs, health, land, education. Basically listing just about everything as far as public access. And if you notice on the left, this comes from the National Corruption Perception Survey. So the problem with corruption is it is really hard to actually find the literal numbers for corruption, because most people are not going to admit to either A, yes, I paid a bribe, or B, no, I asked for a bribe and I didn't get it. That's, so we have to go with what we can, and these are the best estimates of what we can come up with. Now, the gentleman who wrote this also had a story that he tells about a police corruption case where a sad incident that took place on the 15th of August, just the second day of Pakistan Independence Day in the month of Ramadan. These two brothers were killed with so much brutality that even the word brutality, inhumanity, barbarism seemed to be very poor and small words. These men, black and brown, present there and let it happen, and they could be branded as criminals. But what happened was they called the police to help these gentlemen, and the police came out, and rather than breaking it up, they tied them to poles and increased the riot to get them to do more inhumane things to their bodies, disfiguring their faces and different things like that. I'm not sure exactly what happened here, what caused the riot in the first place, but what we do know is that the police were called out to protect these men, and they turned the other way. In fact, they not only turned the other way, they turned to the other side. So we see there's a lot of police problems. We also see problems with bribes. The World Economy Forum survey highlights that doing bribes in Pakistan is the biggest problem is corruption. Some estimate the cost of bribes make up an estimated 20% of business. And according to the survey above, the World Economic Forum survey, bribes are paid. 64% of the poorest people are paying bribes, and 26% of the richest are paying bribes, which showed that bribes are a huge concern, especially for the poor. We read about it in I Am Malala, where her dad goes to get his school, and they're telling him he needs to pay a bribe. And he says, why would I pay a bribe? Running a school is not a crime. You're not running brothels. We're educating children. Government officials are not our bosses. They are our servants. Well, he's one of the few people that stand up for things like that and was able to get away with not paying a bribe. And we know that many of his other principals paid bribes just to be able to open a school. There's a Dr. Chima who's in the United Kingdom, and he's quoted that corruption in Pakistan police and law enforcement is alleged to be unescapable. This creates a culture of lawlessness and a lack of integrity and reliance in establishment. The police and the law enforcement appointments are often politicized, full of nepotism, and conflict of interest. In such a corrupt environment, the criminals, rent seekers, and blackmailers are often the sole beneficiaries of this corrupt system. So, to try to find anti-corruption, Jose Hugues, was just the chair of the Transparency International, said that governments must do more to deliver on their anti-corruption commitments. It's time to stop talking and act. Millions of people are forced to pay bribes for public services, and it's the poor who are most vulnerable. And we read about that a little bit earlier. There are several organizations in Pakistan. The NAB has been set up to try to help, but it is really, in the end of the day, it's a government organization, and the amount of efficiency that they have is being questioned. And so there's also other groups that have set up like this, Say No to Corruption. This is a Facebook group that was set up, and it's trying to get people to become informed, like Malala's father, to know what their rights are, to try to get away from a lot of these corruption. They've got a long way to go. Here are my sources. I had a lot of information and a lot of great web pages out there. If anyone wants a link to something specific, let me know. I hope you learned something. And I went over, but if you play it at double speed on YouTube, you should be exactly 5 minutes. Thank you.